What it is, everybody. Merry Christmas. Hope you guys are having a good one. I should have a Christmas tree behind me in my fake house, which is super nice, by the way, and inspired by my location. Thanks for joining me today. We are live Christmas Day for the homies and the ladies, all of the people who watch who need a fix, a live stream to tune into, something to dull the mind, something to fill the senses. We're here, big show today. Big show. That's what I say. That's my nod to Nick Fuentes, actually, every time I say that. For those of you who don't tune into that young man. Big show today. We're going to talk about the Epstein files. I wrote in the title, Is Trump Guilty? I think, just to prod you. Nuck Fugget says, guilty of what? Very defensively. Aren't you defensive? Don't you know he's accused in the Epstein files of having raped somebody who killed themselves? And I think there's something else having to do with nipples. I probably shouldn't put that in the first part of the show. Got to watch for the algorithm. Nipple, nipple, nipple. That's an N word, actually. You have to be careful saying those. They get you. So welcome to the show. We're going to check in with the chat. We're going to have fun today. Fun and commentary. We are going to be monitoring what you have to say. You can ask questions and I can respond to them like I do, like I did yesterday. Welcome if you're new. Welcome if you're old, especially. Welcome if you haven't seen this show for a long time. There are some of you every single time, it seems like. Welcome, welcome, welcome. It's Christmas. Did you get everything you wanted? Or did you get nice, clean coal in your stocking? We'll go over Donald Trump's Christmas message today, which is Merry Christmas, even to the haters and losers, similar to a previous Christmas Day message. We can talk about whether you like Donald Trump or hate him. I don't hate anybody on this show, but I know some people are still on board the MAGA train. MAGA is changing. It will not continue. The MAGA mantle is being redefined as America First. It seems like that's my reading of J.D. Vance's speech, America First, which is the name of Nick Fuentes' show. Also, many people seeking to carry that banner and define it as they will. Many people who say America First actually prefer Israel to this country. Yui Munir says, what's up, cucks? I like that. I had to explain to people what a cuck was. That should have been word of the year instead of slop. People are learning many terms, many sexualized terms like cuck. Kanye West says he's a cuck. We know about the cuck chair. I saw something about actually a husband watching Santa kissing his wife. I saw mama kissing Santa Claus, right? You know that story. And he was sitting in his cuck chair. That was a story on Twitter today. I think it was real. Some people are Epstein first. Mr. Happy says. Some people do go out of their way to defend Epstein. Some people don't think he did anything wrong. Think it's all a blown out of proportion conspiracy theory, actually. Still, at least one somewhat prominent person. Oh, look at that. Pirate Justin. Thank you, Pirate. I appreciate you. You are normally stingy with your tips. Thank you for that coffee. I will tell people how they can tip us on Christmas Day. No tax on tips. So actually, I think I read that live streamers, all of my income theoretically is on tips if I'm live streaming, if all of my income's from live streaming. Doc says I voted for Trump 3 times, but I didn't vote for his Zionism. Well, he's kind of a complicated character. The Jews love him, and they're not going to they don't like JD Vance so far. Trump is a very interesting character. He really is the Teflon Don. Because he supports Qatar. He likes UAE. He likes these Muslim countries. He really likes Qatar and some of these other Muslim countries like the UAE and Saudi Arabia. But they never get mad at him like they do at Tucker Carlson, who also loves Qatar and is buying a place there. I do think that's a little strange. But Trump does all that, and the Jews still really like him. They say he's the first Jewish president. And then everybody else who does that seems to get rejected. So we have a fight going on. There's a fight for the soul of the so-called conservative movement, which may just be a network of grifters at this point. Seems like the conservative movement is being defined by podcasts these days. Last election was the first podcast election where one of the reasons they say Trump won is because he went on Joe Rogan and Theo Vaughn. And those are all people who are actually liberal by the traditional sense, just like me, really. I was going to vote for Bernie Sanders when I first started podcasting. I was telling people to vote for Bernie. And I was saying Trump was racist too, actually. But I came around. I only voted for him once so far. You say you voted for him 3 times. I voted for him once so far. And that was this last election. And it was probably because, well, it's for a lot of reasons. Tulsi Gabbard, JFK Jr., the assassination survival. A lot of people voted for him because he almost got killed. A lot of people. That's when people came out for him. Elon Musk and so forth. So yes, I voted for him. No, I'm not happy right now at the state of things. I'm not happy for my people. My people who are the marginalized, not the 10%, not the boomers necessarily. Although I think some boomers listen to the show. I speak for the young people, even though they don't tune in. Our audience is Generation X and Millennial, mostly, if we look at our numbers. Hardly any young people, actually. Triggered Easily says, vote harder. Yes. Vote harder, goys. As if voting will fix us, fix our problems. It never seems to, but I do it anyway. Or I did last time. I voted for Republicans. I don't think Democrats are great. But sometimes I think Bernie has a point. Sometimes I think AOC has a point. Sometimes when they talk about AI. Sometimes I could talk to you. So we're going to talk about what's in the Epstein files, specifically in regards to Trump, some of which his name was redacted and people say that that's really suspicious. Some of which people in the files accused him of things like rape, theoretically. So we're going to talk about it. I will give you my opinion as to whether I believe those accusations or not. Mostly, I believe the women who've come forward because I've seen the documents, some of which still haven't been released again. Some of the documents that are going to come out were out in the past and I think have since been taken away. I remember the documents from the Ghislaine Maxwell lawsuit, which were exposed. And Alan Dershowitz was involved in that, and Mike Cernovich was involved in that, supporting Alan Dershowitz. Very strange. Memory Man, are you talking to me? You thought the fake attempted assassination was real. Ah, yes. Oh, sir. Maybe. I know many people. That's another conspiracy theory. I'm not an auto hoaxer. I used to be, though, an auto hoaxer. I believe most mass shootings were fake in the past, but now I question myself. Extraordinary claims require extraordinary proof. So somehow you'd have to prove it to me that was fake somehow. Although the ear pillow afterwards and then no scarring on the ear and stuff, it is weird. The ear doesn't exactly grow back. So I will give you that. It was like a miraculous healing. He showed up at the GOP event with a big like pillow on his ear. And then the pillow went away pretty fast and his ear was perfect. So Real Hampson wants to do it the other way. Says you'd have to prove that it's real. Well, how do I do that? The overwhelming evidence in public. Somebody died, supposedly. Somebody actually died there. So, and they did kill a guy, supposedly. I think I've seen pictures of that. There were, I don't know. Well, I respect you people still. Lomain says, OG lift the veil fan here. What's up, Nathan? What are your genuine thoughts on CK shooting and Trump shooting? My genuine thoughts. Oh, I ride the fence these days so as not to offend anybody. Pulling a Tim Pool. My genuine thoughts on CK shooting and Trump shooting. Genuinely, I think they both were shot at. That's what I genuinely think until proven otherwise. That's what I genuinely think, but don't crucify me. I'm open to alternative views. And on the CK shooting, gosh, we have, until proven otherwise, we have a confession from the guy. It sounds like a reasonable story based on the backstory and all that stuff. Forgive me, but his politics were changing. There's like the whole backstory about how he mentioned at dinner with his parents that Charlie Kirk was coming to town and he didn't like him because he was spreading hate. He theoretically was dating a dude, and these trans people are insane. We know that they do mass shootings, it seems like. And because because people like Charlie Kirk are an existential threat to trans people. This is why they are involved in so many shootings, is because they literally believe that we're trying to erase them when we say that trans people don't exist, right? That we're trying to deny their existence. So they become violent. This kid wasn't trans, but he was some kind of genius. Sven Debs. Memory Man just said, just because they killed a guy doesn't mean it wasn't staged. I don't know. It certainly helped him out. I can see the motivation, though. Unlike with the Charlie Kirk one, if it was fake, I don't see the motivation, or at least like a cui bono, right? From the cui bono from that one is mostly Candace Owens and everybody who jumped on that bandwagon. Those are the grifters that jumped on that bandwagon benefited the most if it was fake. TPUSA, I don't think benefits in the long run from the death of Charlie Kirk. Some people can say Erica Kirk benefited. Maybe she had motive because she was just that dastardly a person, but I actually just don't buy that. It's not good for the organization overall. Even though they raised a lot of money now, I don't think that in the long run, they're better off without having Charlie. He was a unique talent. So faking it, and then he's off on Epstein Island. I think Epstein, based on the ear of the person in the stretcher, was switched out. Epstein, I think, maybe didn't die. Based on whoever was in the stretcher, that wasn't Epstein that was photographed. So see, I'm not totally gone. Not only did Epstein not kill himself, but I don't know that he died, because it wasn't the same person that they photographed in the stretcher for sure. Triggered Easily says, we want voted for Bernie, Nathan. Really? Are you a lefty? I'm kind of a lefty, actually, at heart, I think. It's just that the left went insane. Just like a lot of people. The left lost me. And I believe in small government. That's the other thing. I'm a libertarian too. So even Bernie, like, I'm not a socialist, but I also believe in equal rights and all of that. And I'm not a white nationalist, even though I like white people. I'm not a white nationalist. I like other races too, actually. I like people, even though I don't talk to them very often, except for you invisible people in my chat. All right, let's play my intro and get started. We will communicate with the chat. We are happy that you joined us today for this Christmas Day, especially those of you who are alone this Christmas and have nothing to do, like me, this Christmas. This is the first Christmas of my life that I'm spending it just completely by myself, with a dog though. And it's raining. And nothing's open. I couldn't get my sweet treats today. I had to go. Every day I have something nice and coffee. And today every place was closed that has nice food to eat, like fresh cookies or pastries or donuts. While I'm in town here, I get donuts. Donut shop that's 24/7 is closed Christmas and Thanksgiving. So I couldn't get donuts. So if I'm cranky, it's because I had to eat Pepperidge Farm cookies instead of fresh baked cookies. And I couldn't have donuts because the donut shops are all closed. So if I'm cranky, don't blame me. Blame it on the fact that I couldn't get my fresh pastries today. But I did have a coffee because Starbucks is open. Poor souls who work there. And I actually gave them a bigger tip than usual because they were working on Christmas Day. God bless them. God bless our niggas who have to work today. Wang half. All right. Let's get started. We'll play some funny videos for you and so forth. Okay, cue musical intro. Boy, that's brilliant. I do think some things in the world are real. Like you guys. You guys are real. Most of you. Most of my listeners, I think, are not just in my head. I think I have the metrics to prove it. You've taken a leap of faith today. What is that sound? And I apologize if you take offense. I'm a little offended myself. Welcome to our show. Welcome to the future. What it is, joining you live from sunny California. It's a beautiful day today. I'm your host, Nathan Stoltman. And I bring you the news, the real news.
Hey, what's the difference between a lentil and a chickpea? I've never had a lentil on my face for 20 quid.
Cover your ears, sweetheart.
He has had a chickpea on his face for 20 quid. That's the joke if you need explanation for that one. That's a nice Christmas joke today. Let's see, we have one other Christmas joke for you. We'll play that too.
Je l'ai donné.
Ouais, je l'avais en format
Qu'est-ce que
PDF.
c'est que ça? Attends, voir. Ah oui, c'est possible, je l'ai donné. Ouais. Non, mais c'est Minecraft qui voulait. Non. C'est Minecraft. Mais il m'a dit Minecraft. Mais non, papa, c'est Minecraft. Et où t'as trouvé ça? C'est pas possible. Mais non, c'est papa. Je l'ai donné.
He wanted
Ouais, je l'avais en format.
Minecraft. He wanted Minecraft. That's a joke. I didn't realize it was in German. The kid asked for Minecraft and he got Minecraft. My mom had a copy of that on her bookshelf though. God bless her soul. There was a copy of Mein Kampf. I haven't read it. I heard it's not that well written, but curious what my mom's thoughts were. My mom died before I became a conspiracy theorist. Very curious. She always supported me in everything I did. Eventually. So I wonder if she would have supported the conspiracy theories. I would have told her about 9/11. Merry Christmas to you, Adaptable. God bless you. Someone said they want the old Nathan back from the McMartin preschool days and the SRA days. Well, I already covered it all. There are only so many satanic ritual abuse stories, although some of the files in the Epstein files talk about stuff that's like what people talk about with satanic ritual abuse. It's just that I don't think Epstein was up to that kind of thing. The thing that was completely redacted that first came out in the Epstein files, they unredacted it, and I read through that. Not all of it, but most of it. He was mostly a groomer. And actually, he was mostly just a groomer, and he must have just had a shitload of money. They really need to follow the money on that guy, because he would pay for these girls after he sexually abused them with coercion, basically, like to the point where it wasn't exactly rape, but it was coercion and grooming. But he bought them all kinds of stuff, paid for their schools, paid for their apartments, paid for him after he was done abusing them and stuff. I mean, it costs a lot of money. And some of these girls, I mean, you can argue if you're a terrible person, you can argue that they got what they asked for because they got a lot of money out of it. You could argue that if you're a terrible person, like if you're Michael Tracy, you'd be like, oh, these whores or whatever, these 15-year-old whores. If you're Michael Tracy or Alan Dershowitz, that's what you would say. But they're underage, and we have age of consent and stuff for a reason. Oh, Psy Girl. Look at that. They were whores who got busted by Palm Beach police, so claimed they were victims. Very, very harsh words. They were groomed, though, right? They were coerced. And they didn't like it, and it kind of ruined their lives. And in some cases, they were trafficked. But Virginia Giuffre, I mean, she had consensual sex with Prince Andrew. And she was of age in that jurisdiction. And prostitution, in my opinion, prostitution should be legal, but trafficking is a different thing. So, but they have pimps in Nevada, kind of. I mean, they're kind of being pimped out, those Nevada whorehouses that are legal. Pimps give you protection, right? Theoretically. Or you have a driver or something that looks out for you or whatever. It's kind of a complex issue. Their families, where were their families? Says Psy Girl. Well, that's one. He targeted victims with family problems and money problems, to where it was easy to coerce them with like taking them to the mall and stuff. That's what it seems like he did. He would like take them to the mall, buy them things, give them cash, tell them to give cash to their families. And then often they didn't have fathers. You say, didn't they have fathers with balls? No, in many cases. In many cases, they did not have fathers at all. And so, in some cases, at least in one of the cases I was reading the file on, there was a mother who was Middle Eastern and basically went along with it for the money. Basically told her that you do whatever a man tells you to do because that was her culture. Winged Infinity said prostitution should not be legal. Well, it already is. It already is legal in like all 50 states. They call it escorting. So you pay and you have consensual sex. You pay for time. You're not allowed to pay for a sex act. That's the way it's defined. So when they do these stings, they're like, they wait for the person to say, oh, it's $50 for an oral or whatever, or $100 for around the world. I don't even want to tell you what that is. That's not legal, but being an escort is legal in this country already, pretty much probably where you live. So Knock Fugget says massages without happy endings should be illegal. Yeah. There are many probably near you. There are massage parlors that offer sexual services for those who know how to find them. The owner of the New England Patriots got busted getting a happy ending. Asian women come here and end up at these places that give massages. And also, if you know the code and stuff, you can get other services up to and including, full sexual services. So that happens pretty much everywhere. Nuck Fugget says, I stand with Epstein. Wow, that's wild. Okay, let's get to some of the claims, okay? Since you're here, thanks for joining me. Thanks for the spicy chat. I should say Christmas Day and spicy chat, especially with Cygirl here, who says these underage women were whores. Wow, very spicy. No, I don't think so. I do think it was a crime. Even though in some countries, like they would have been above the age of consent, I still think it was a crime. I still think grooming and coercion make it a crime, even though I don't know that it technically amounts to rape exactly. But I still think the grooming and coercion and then the trafficking is probably a crime. Some people in these documents accuse him of worse. So I'll show you that. All right, let's show you Donald Trump's Christmas message. Merry Christmas to all, including the radical left scum that is doing everything possible to destroy our country, but are failing badly. We no longer have open borders, men and women's sports, transgender for everyone, or weak law enforcement. What we do have is a record stock market, all caps. I mean, not all caps, but capital record stock market. Do people have a mental illness if they capitalize things like that? Like, what is that exactly? What we do have is a record stock market, as if it's a proper noun, I mean. Record stock market and 401ks, lowest crime numbers in decades, no inflation, and yesterday a 4.3 GDP, 2 points better than expected. Tariffs have given us trillions of dollars in growth and prosperity, and the strongest national security we have ever had. We are respected again, perhaps like never before. God bless America. President DJT. Very similar to a post he's made in the past. I think this is another Christmas post. I'd like to wish all my friends and even my many enemies a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Merry Christmas even to scum. Even to scum like you are trying to destroy this country. So that's the message from our president, who keeps saying things that are basically tone deaf to the, if not the majority of people, at least especially young people whose future has been robbed from them at this time, who don't own stocks, who don't have 401ks, who can't get a job better than driving for DoorDash or working at a coffee shop, even with their college degrees, who have college debt that they are wondering how they're going to pay back, and will become the future people in this world. And there is nothing that is being done to fix that problem. In fact, he's kind of doing things that make it worse. I'll show you that since we're talking shit about Trump. We'll go ahead. And Merry Christmas, even to my haters. Even to my haters who come in and say, if all you're going to do is talk shit about Trump, I'm not going to tune in. Okay. Well, it's not all I'm going to do. Here's something Trump did in his speech. He gave us one of the things in his primetime speech, which was where he announced nothing new and just wasted everybody's time talking about how great everything is. He said he was giving $1,776 checks to military out of, he didn't say what. Apparently that was already going to them. That wasn't even a thing. So I'll play that from Fox News. Let me see. Loading.
More. God forbid you actually heard what you said. I'm interested, though, in Jessica and what you just said, because that was news to me.
Okay, so Defense One, I think, was the first to report it. This reporter, Thomas Novelli, I don't know. President Donald Trump's 1776 checks for more than 1 million troops announced Wednesday comes from congressionally allocated reconciliation funds intended to subsidize housing allowances for service members, a senior administration official confirmed.
So it's not from tariffs? Well, that kind of sucks.
So we're not taking the
You're
money.
taking the money from their housing and you're giving it
So we're
to them.
stealing the money from troops and then giving it back to troops.
Let's just say that if you're going to do,
It's not a bonus. It's money they were already getting.
but it's a way
Maybe
to.
we'll believe you.
But the Defense Department has the ability to reallocate monies that have already been approved by Congress. There's new tariff money wherever it exists.
The phantom money.
That would have to come through Congress, and then next year when they do the budget and everything. But the Defense Department can say, okay, well, when they do the budget, we'll take the tariff money and put that back in the account. That's what they can do.
Ah, I see. So they're giving this out now as a Christmas bonus, and they're going to replenish it with the other stuff.
That it was,
Jessica, how
but the way
dare
it
you?
was sold was not
Don't do
great.
that.
I agree, it wasn't great.
But here.
There you go. So that was where that magical money came from. The 1776. He stole it from the future, which is cool. Tariffs. Yeah. Tariff checks. Tariffs. While we've apparently gotten trillions of dollars in investment from tariffs, he says, but that's actually not true. Not yet, at least. But he claims that 18 trillion is the latest number. Originally, it was 21 trillion, but none of those things are true. If anything, it's hundreds of billions. And apparently it's all going to be, which we've had to pay for one way or the other. Either American taxpayers or American businesses have had to pay for. Many of them say they're about to raise prices even more because of tariffs, like Walmart. So, but apparently we might get checks from the tariffs, which we'll see. Congress has to pass it, so we'll see. All right. So anyway, that's that news. That's more bad news about Trump. This is bad news, I think. Trump is about to start garnishing wages from people who have defaulted on their student loans. So, which actually might help inflation because people will be even more broke. The problem is with fixing inflation, since it's based on supply and demand, if you hit the demand side, which is why gas prices are going down, because people are too poor to afford it. If you hit the demand side, then prices can go down. But then he hits the supply side too by raising tariffs on businesses, so their costs go up. So, but if we're lucky, we'll get a nice soft landing depression. That's what I'm counting on. A nice soft depression where prices do come down, but everybody's unemployed. Except for tech oligarchs who run machines and robots. Soft landing depression. That would be nice. Let's see if we can manage that for 2026. This is what Trump says he's going to do about housing. So the main problem with housing being unaffordable, also a question of supply and demand. The demand is coming from the top 10%. Mostly, the average home buyer is 59 years old. The average first-time home buyer is 40 years old. And then a bunch of boomers. Most of Americans' net worth typically is in real estate. boomers, many of them have multiple homes and they have a lot of value caught up in those homes. The problem with any policy to make housing cheaper is that it would could create a housing crisis, because if home values start going down, people will start defaulting on their mortgages. There will be repossessions, and boomers will be really upset because they'll see the value, their net worth decline. But housing is going down already because the economy is not good and people are losing their jobs. Rent prices are already going down. So and gas prices have fallen drastically, which should actually worry you. So I'll say that on the big screen. Gas prices going down should concern you that we're about to have a depression or a recession, if we're lucky, because they've fallen so fast for no good reason. It could indicate that people just don't have the money to pay for gas anymore, because they have fallen really fast recently, like kind of off a cliff. There wasn't any real policy reason for it. We are drilling, and other countries are drilling too. But other countries might be trying to put our oil producers out of business by dropping the price of oil to below where we can afford to drill for it anymore. But the price of gas coming down, yes, it is low. Yes, it is good. Yes, it affects inflation. It is a net positive for most Americans. But it could be an indication that people are broke, totally broke, and can't afford to put gas in their car anymore, or that the economy is slowing down very fast, because it has fallen a lot recently. So be aware of that. But anyway, Trump knows that if we really fix the housing crisis, the affordability crisis in housing, that means boomers lose their life savings. So here he is talking about it.
On housing, you talked in your address last night about housing.
Yeah.
Are you still considering a national emergency over housing?
I'm looking at it.
What would that look like? What would that mobilize?
You know, there's two thoughts on housing. You have a lot of people have housing that because we have such a strong time and such a strong market, their houses are very valuable. It's a big part of their net worth, their house. I don't want to knock those numbers down because I want them to continue to have a big value for the house. At the same time, I want to make it possible for young people out there and other people to buy housing. In a way, they're at conflict. In other words, you create a lot of housing all of a sudden, and it drives the housing prices down. So I want to take care of the people that have houses that have a value to the house that they never thought possible, that have sort of made them wealthy and happy, and especially in their later years. Got to be careful with that. I want to keep them up. At the same time, I want to make it possible for people to go buy houses.
Okay, that's impossible. Those things are in conflict, like he realizes. So he's actually afraid. The one way you can do it in a Republican way and a conservative way is to relax regulations. Like we have very many regulations here in California that makes our housing insane here, which is that to build something, you have to pass all these environmental regulations and like water use and things like that. And if you stripped away a lot of those regulations, then people could build more housing. But yeah, and that does bring down the cost of housing. That's why in Austin, Texas, rents have been going down for a while and houses are still relatively affordable because they keep building there. They keep building and building and building. I lived there in Austin for a second. And they were building. Like I was in a brand new building. They were building a brand new building next to me. They were going to build a brand new building next to that. Like all these apartments and stuff. So that's why rents are actually down there. California, you can't build anything right now. So, but he knows those are your voters, these old people who have houses, They're loud and obnoxious. They control everything, kind of. So, but actually, somebody mentioned an ounce of silver is now worth more than a barrel of gold, a barrel of oil. Yeah, I know. Boy, am I upset about the value of silver. Even though the first thing I did when I came on my show is tell people about money and tell people to buy silver. And I had a nice stack of it. And I sold it almost all of it. Basically, I have a few ounces of physical silver left. Earlier this year, after I had a mental health crisis and maxed out all my credit cards. Well, not all of them, actually. One of them. I sold some crypto, a lot of it, well, a significant amount, and I sold all my silver for half of what it is now. Very disappointing. But silver does pump and dump. That's the thing. I will tell you. Silver pumps and it pumps. And it's pumping. And yeah, it's like worth way more than Bitcoin. It's worth way more than most companies. Silver is big deal. But if there's a depression or something, which is, I think is really possible, then silver will go down, I think, again. And if you look at the long-term chart of it, it pumps and dumps. Last time it went up to $50, it was only there for a second and then it crashed. So I'm conservative these days, but I have some silver. I bought some. I bought some of the stock you can buy, SLV. So I don't know. Could go up even more. People say there's a supply problem. So people say it hit $80 in China. Yeah, that's what I hear. So who knows? Maybe it really will break. I don't know. But it's most of the demand for silver, at least maybe until recently. Now it's like a meme stock, basically. It's almost the same as a meme stock at this point. But most of the demand for silver comes from industrial uses. And if we have a depression, then the industrial demand will drop, and it could drop precipitously. So I have mostly gold or synthetic gold, in that I have anything other than cash. Now, I'm managing my money to maintain value more than I am to necessarily get rich. I'm just trying not to get too poor. So I have mostly cash and gold, because I think gold won't fall as far if we have a depression, and it'll recover first once they start flooding the system with money again. And most of the demand for gold is monetary, where most of the demand for silver is industrial. But Star C James says Bitcoin not looking good. Yeah, I've sold almost all my Bitcoin. I wish I had done that I wish I had sold more cryptocurrency, exclusively cryptocurrency, instead of selling any silver, any physical silver, because I didn't even get compensated for my silver, really. I wish I had sold all cryptocurrency, which I have mostly done now. I blame Michael Saylor a lot. I think Michael Saylor is a scammer at this time. That's what I believe. Even though I sell Bitcoin shirts. Actually, I should do my ad for Bitcoin shirts now. I think in the long run, it's a good buy. If you have like a 2 to 4, maybe in 2 years, it'll actually be higher than it is now. I don't know. But if we have a financial crisis of some sort, then it's going to drop. And it seems like people are buying gold and silver instead. That's all. Yeah, it's just so volatile. And it follows tech stocks, like AI stocks, pretty much. So yeah, I'm not feeling that great about it these days. But buy some t-shirts anyway. In the long run, I think it should be good. But now that you can buy gold-backed cryptocurrency, I like that more at this time. And gold is near record highs, because that's a true safety play. That's a true safety play, where Bitcoin should be a safety play, but it's just not. Anyway, buy my t-shirts. Go to truthclothing.io. What we have in stock the most is cryptocurrency shirts. So check it out at truthclothing.io. We have a lot of great shirts, though. We have our Question Everything shirts, and we believe in questioning everything. Don't say we don't. Questions are good. I'm open to all questions. Propaganda. This is a great baseball jersey. We have these in stock in different sizes. Check that one out. That's a great design. $10. Everything's $10 and $5, except for a Bitcoin Saves sweatshirt, which is $20. But all the shirts are $10 and $5. Question Everything. Here's our Bitcoin shirts. Crypto Future. Bitcoin Saves is a great design. Hodl shirts, $5. Freedom of Face shirts, made in America, are $5, down from $35. So check them out. And then we have female styles too. So buy them while we still have them in stock. Everything has to go. If this was like a mattress store, everything must go. Everything must go. So if you're interested, you got to buy it now while we still have your size. It is not a never-ending thing. Pyro Justin says, LOL, y'all are NGMI. Not going to make it. Looking to buy more Bitcoin before the year is over. Also buying gold ETFs, and we'll pick up some PAX-G. Yes, PAX-G. That's what I have. Gold-backed cryptocurrency. It's doing better than Bitcoin, better than digital gold at this time. But I'm concerned about Michael Saylor, Pirate Justin. I think he's a scammer. I think Stretch in particular is a Ponzi scheme, STRC. His stock that gives you a 10% dividend. And it's basically like an algorithmic stock that's supposed to be tied to a $100 value. It's unpegged several times already, depegged, and he's raising cash now, selling his stock, MSTR, and raising cash rather than buying Bitcoin, which tells you what he might think is better because he has to pay dividends. And his entire scheme is based on the value of Bitcoin going up. And that's problematic because it doesn't always go up. And if it keeps going down, I think he might go bankrupt. And then Bitcoin's going back down to 20K. And then I'm buying again. But if Saylor gets liquidated, I think maybe he will. Then Bitcoin's going way down. So then I'll be buying it for sure. I'll tell you guys to buy it. It's good long term, but I think he's a scammer, actually. Michael Saylor is not Bitcoin. Unfortunately, he kind of is. Unfortunately, I should talk about the Epstein files, but since we're talking about everything, buy those t-shirts or go to buymeacoffee.com. It's Christmas, guys. I did get some presents. I got a donut shop gift card for Christmas, which I really appreciated. And a what else did I get? I did get something else. Oh, this hoodie. I got this hoodie too, which is really nice. So I did get Christmas presents, but if you want to support me, I'm streaming on Christmas. Go to buymeacoffee.com/lifttheveil. If you needed something to tune into and this is entertaining, then support your favorite live streamer. No tax on tips. Those are tips. I'll tell my attorneys. All right. So anyway, that's what's going on with Trump. Okay, let's talk about these Epstein files. Mike H says, how many coffees did I get last night? Was it a record? It was a lot. Yeah. And praise Jesus for being born on a totally different day than today. But praise Jesus, I did get a lot of coffees yesterday. I'm very thankful for that. That will help pay for my streaming expenses, pay for my AI editor. So thanks for that. Yeah, yesterday I got enough to pay for my AI editor probably. So that's very helpful. Give us your tips. We'll read your messages. We appreciate it. Buymeacoffee.com/lifttheveil. Okay. All right. So here's some of the stuff about Trump. We said we'd get to it. So we're here. We're at it. Wow. W. Birkin Umbrella Corp, aka The Branch. 10. You must be rich this Christmas. Thank you. I'll read whatever message you wrote. You're my primary benefactor at this time. Thank you for that. I'll read them before the end of the show. That's very, very generous. Thank you. Okay. All right. Here's some of the stuff on Trump. Okay. We said we talk about it. Trump Epstein. This was an email that was released from somebody to somebody else. It's all blacked out regarding Epstein flight records is the title. For your situational awareness, wanted to let you know that the flight records we received yesterday reflect that Donald Trump traveled on Epstein's private jet many more times than previously has been reported or that we were aware, including during the period we would expect to charge in a Maxwell case. In particular, he is listed as a passenger on at least 8 flights between 1993 and 1996, including at least 4 flights on which Maxwell was also present. He is listed as having traveled with, among others at various times, Marla Maples, his daughter Tiffany, and his son Eric. On one flight in 1993, he and Epstein were the only 2 listed passengers. On another, the only 3 passengers are Epstein, Trump, and then 20-year-old blank. On 2 other flights, 2 of the passengers, respectively, were women who would be possible witnesses in a Maxwell case. We've just finished reviewing the full records and didn't want any of this to be a surprise down the road. So he flew on the jet, but it was between 93 and 96, well before Epstein was convicted of anything, and before, importantly, he bought the island. And it was all flights between Palm Beach and New York, pretty much. So I personally don't think Trump did anything. That's my personal belief. Anything illegal, put it that way, or even anything that was legal involving him sleeping with any of Epstein's girls, especially that were underage. There hasn't been any evidence presented to that effect yet. Although, I'll show you some things that claim he did do bad things, but I think those aren't convincing, the accusations that are against him. Somebody that accused him, here, I'll show you the limo driver. But he was friends with Epstein. And based on his comments, I think he knew what was going on with Epstein. That's what I believe. I believe he actually knew what Epstein was up to, and that's why he kicked him out of Mar-a-Lago and stuff. I think he knows that he took Virginia Giuffre from Mar-a-Lago to be one of his sex girls. I think Trump knew that and didn't like it, which is what was stated, is that he kicked him out because he took somebody from Mar-a-Lago, which was Virginia Giuffre or Virginia Roberts. So I think he knew, and then in that famous interview, he said, Epstein likes women as much as I do, some of whom are on the younger side. He said that in an interview. So he knew Epstein was into young girls and still was friends with him up until a certain point. So I kind of think he knew based on what he said. All right, here's this story where he was accused from a limo driver. Okay, so I'll read that to you. Let me take a sip of water. Okay. Blank asked blank about his time driving a limousine for 2 years in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. During blank's time as a driver, he had met Donald Trump. Blank noted he picked up the president back in 1995 and took him to the DFW airport. Blank reported some of the things President Trump had spoken about during the ride while on his cell phone, which were very concerning. Blank reported he was, quote, a few seconds from pulling the limousine over on the median, and within a few seconds of pulling him out of the car and hurting him due to some of the things he was saying, unquote, as caller chose not to. Blank noted Trump continuously stated the name Jeffrey while on the phone and made references to, quote, abusing some girl, unquote. Blank was unsure who he was talking to, nor who he was referencing. As Blank talked about his time meeting Donald Trump, Blank immediately, Blank demeanor went, quote unquote, stone cold, as Blank stated, he raped me. What? I'm trying to make sense of it. Donald Trump was on the phone. So who said he raped me? Blank said, what? As Blank replied, quote, Donald J. Trump had raped her along with Jeffrey Epstein, unquote. Blank noted some girl with a funny name, quote, took me into a fancy hotel or building. That's how it happened, unquote. Blank advised Blank to call the police regarding the incident, as Blank stated, quote, I can't, they will kill me, unquote. On Christmas Day, Blank contacted Blank, stated she had in fact called the police about what they had talked about. Blank told Blank she had, quote unquote, done good. Blank did not hear from Blank or Blank until January 10th, 2000. Blank reached out to Blank stating Blank was dead and noted she was found with her head, quote unquote, blown off in Kiefer, Oklahoma. Officers at the scene and Blank stated there was no way it was a suicide. Coroner stated it was a suicide. Blank later stated Blank committed suicide because Blank had gotten cocaine from a Mexican drug cartel. Blank feels the murder is a cover for Ghislaine. So that's the story. So I'm trying to pick it apart because it's him hearing Trump on the phone, but then it's him hearing directly from a victim, I guess, who stated he raped me. The government says this was researched and found to be false. And I think it came up while Trump was running for president, so there was maybe a political motive for it. But it just sounds out there to me. Rick the Explorer says, read what I said. You can see this text without the black lines in any text editor. Well, not from copying it off of Twitter. I'd have to go into the files. Is this one of the ones? I am aware that you can copy and paste. Are you aware that there's a conspiracy theory that the reason they didn't properly redact everything is because Elon Musk canceled their Adobe subscriptions? Have you heard that one? People are saying because Doge canceled a bunch of Adobe Acrobat subscriptions that they just highlighted it in a PDF editor, highlighted it in black rather than properly redacting it. That's what people are saying. Okay, I'd have to filling in the blanks would be helpful to just know which person was saying what. I could have been more specific at what the blanks were, but let's see. Jewel Lightheart says, but that's what this stuff is, ancient fragments trying to remain relevant. People have made up their minds regarding guilt, etc. No actual justice is coming. I agree with you that probably no justice is coming. I agree with you about that. And I always said they wouldn't release the files that showed anything because the government would collapse if they did. But we'll see. We have people pushing for it. Side Girl says, I'm imagining Nathan arguing before a jury and getting Trump off. I don't know. I mean, the thing is Epstein was arrested under Trump. And then Biden came in. And Biden's Department of Justice had many of these claims. And I believe even the claim I just read to you was submitted before Trump was reelected in 2024. So if it was true, the accusations against Trump, I actually don't see why Biden, considering he did lawfare against Trump in other ways, would have not gone after him for it. But I know that there still is a motive to cover up stuff like this, maybe in general. But I kind of buy that argument. So I'm arguing in court for Trump. I don't know. I just don't think Virginia Giuffre was the main girl. It seems like Virginia Giuffre was the main girl who was trafficked out to people and stuff. Like, she was the most compliant, it seems like. And she seemed to be the one that was handed out the most based on what she said. So and she said that Trump never did anything. So I'm kind of thinking he didn't, and I don't know if there was any. Well, some of the girls claim that Ghislaine Maxwell raped them. So some of the girls claim that Ghislaine Maxwell raped them. And so some of them may have been raped technically. And certainly it was coerced in most cases, whether or not it was kind of consensual or not. But here is a trafficking victim who said something totally different, which, here, listen to this claim. So this is a claim that is kind of like SRA, satanic ritual abuse, because she says she was born into a sex trafficking family. Now, I think some of the people who say this are fantasists, but I also believe that it's real, that people are born into satanic bloodlines, or if they're not satanic or Luciferian by name, they are bloodlines that abuse their kids for the purposes of having them be enlightened or whatever, disassociating. They abuse their children so they learn how to disassociate. And some of those people become like pop stars and stuff. I believe that. Because I believe that disassociation creates something. Anyway, this person says, I was born into sex trafficking. I was trafficked beginning at my earliest memory. I do not remember a time that I was not trafficked for sex. According to birth certificate from blank, my biological parents, I do not recognize them as parents, blank, blank, began to sell me for sex in the town of blank. There were many men that were brought to their home to have sex with me. I was taken to many states in the U.S. to sell me. I was forced by threat by blank and Jeffrey Epstein of being killed, bodily harm, and threats of harming other children if I did not have sex with them and any other people that they sold me to. The rape and sex trafficking with Jeffrey Epstein happened year blank. I was about blank years old at that time. I was taken to an underground location. I was blindfolded so I would not know exactly where I was. It was dark, and when we went through doors, we went downstairs. There was also an elevator in the location. I was kept in a stall. It looked like a horse stall that had short walls on the sides so you could see inside. It wasn't really to keep me and the other little girls inside. It was to make it where we could be viewed. Epstein would walk past each girl, including myself, with a lot of men following him, and they would judge us. He told me I was fat and ugly. So that's what he called me. Long blank. And he said I had to pretend it was him to see if I performed well. He said if I performed well, I could be his girlfriend. Then I would be allowed to be upstairs, he called it. He said the girls upstairs were pretty and they were his girlfriends. He then raped me and said I was evil because I liked it. I couldn't make my body stop feeling, so he said I had to go to the holding place to pray hard enough to be able to be upstairs with the other girls. There were a lot of pictures of girls naked all over the walls. I had to pray hard to be like them, he said. The girls that he said performed well enough went with the line of all of the men and they left. In Virgin Islands, I was blank. They stopped there. I was 17 years old, blank, was blindfolded and taken to an underground location. It had steps that went down. I was raped by Jeffrey Epstein. There were other men that raped me. I was kept in a stall so that men could look at me. He said I was an animal and that he was perfect. If I had sex with him, that I wouldn't be such an animal. He said I wanted to be raped because I wanted to be more like him. Okay. So that's a very frightening claim. And I do believe there are cases like this. I mean, there are stories like this, which I think truly happen, but none of the other Epstein accusers, it's not Epstein's MO. Mostly he made consensual victims in a sense through grooming and bribery. So none of the other accusations that I've seen had him being sadistic, basically. He was more like the kind of person who would say, oh, I'm like a godfather kind of person who also did sexual things with them, but then gave them money, took care of their schools and expenses, like looked out for them, took care of them financially, etc., to get them to be compliant. This claim is very disturbing. And maybe I should have told you guys it was disturbing, and maybe YouTube's algorithm won't like it that I read it to you. It sounds like something that maybe happens in this world, but it's not consistent with the other accusers of Jeffrey Epstein. So that's my thoughts on that one. But that one is very disturbing. And it only involves Epstein, not Trump. So thought I'd show you guys that. Then there are other documents that were redacted in this dump that weren't redacted in another dump. This is the one involving the nipples, which I brought up before, I think. This is the unredacted version where it says she confided in me about her casual friendship with Donald. Mr. Trump definitely seemed to have a thing for her, and she told me how he kept going on about how he liked her pert nipples. Donald Trump liked flicking and sucking her nipples until they were raw. This is like rated R stuff. Let me think of how YouTube treats this stuff. I just have to give a warning, I think, in advance. Warning graphic. This is not for children. Hold on. Let me make sure I label my content properly. Let's do that. This is not for children. I already said nipple a few times. Stream settings. Huh. Normally it prompts me to say this isn't for children. It's not prompting me this time. All right, so I'll read you more. Anyway. Let me get to the right screen here. Donald Trump liked flicking and sucking her nipples until they were raw. One evening when we were showering together, she showed me her nipples. They looked incredibly painful as they were red and swollen, and I remember wincing when I looked at them. I also know she had sexual relations with Trump at Jeffrey's New York mansion. Oh, see, I also know she had sexual relations with Trump at Jeffrey's New York mansion on regular occasions, as I once met Jen for coffee just before she was going to meet Trump and Epstein together at his mansion. I will shortly start forwarding you all the emails which I have managed to save. They include the following. I moved from Edinburgh to New York in September 2006, where shortly after I was introduced to Jeffrey Epstein by Natalie. Then a redacted part. A couple months later, after he constantly stalked me around Edinburgh, I moved to New York to get as far away from him as possible and start a new life. Okay, hold on. Oh, Sergey Brin is mentioned. I also have other photos of the Epstein girls and I whilst on the island, including a couple of pictures of me with Sergey Brin and his then fiancee, Anne Wojcicki. I met the pair when they visited the island for the day, as Sergey wanted to try out his new kite surfing equipment. As he had only just started kite surfing, I was very eager to try out the new equipment with us girls. In my secret box, I also have old SIM cards, which contain old text messages and telephone numbers, which I will send you next week when I have them. Okay, so email exchanges, it says included with this, or email exchanges with Sarah Kellen, which includes flight tickets booked for me to St. Thomas. Email exchanges with Leslie Groff, which proves I was asked to source girls for modeling agencies when I went home to see my family in Cape Town. How Jeffrey used education as the way for me to trade my soul to the devil and become a sex slave to pay for my studies at FIT in New York. I was desperate to get qualified and get a proper career. The email also shows evidence that I had to become almost anorexic for Jeffrey to entertain the idea of paying for my tuition. As you will see, Leslie Groff asked me to send her a picture for Jeffrey. I would like to point out that I had to regularly send nude photos to Leslie so Jeffrey could check how my body looked and if I was putting on any weight. An email which was exchanged between Blank using his codename Blank via sugardaddy.com. I have other correspondence which I had with him in my storage box in England. Okay, so anyway, sounds kind of legit, that one. Sounds kind of legit. We don't know if the person was underage or overaged by the email. So that one, I mean, it's possible. Trump definitely had a thing for young women and was a womanizer. So that's totally possible, actually. And Trump's name was redacted in the latest drop. That's what people were pointing out. Trump's name was redacted in the latest drop where it had been unredacted before. So who knows? Might be true. Yes, Rick, that person really did die, apparently. That person who ended up getting shot in Oklahoma. Apparently there is a record that the person actually died, possibly. But I don't know. I don't know. You guys have to decide. So anyway, that's the story about Trump. You guys have to decide. That's some of the stuff that leaked out. Okay. So that's what I have for you guys on the Epstein files today. No other Epstein files came out this Christmas Day. The branch says, remember, MTG resigned to get us these. Yeah. Okay. Do you want to hear a little bit about AI stuff? I have some more, and you guys are tuned in. I'll give you Bernie Sanders talking about it. I'll tell you guys some of the latest on AI. Next year, I predict next year AI will start seriously taking jobs. That's my prediction. Some people claim that AI is not, some people who claim AI is in a bubble say it's because it doesn't work and that it will never achieve the things that they're saying it's going to achieve, that the people who've tried to implement it, it actually doesn't help, like companies aren't making money with it, etc. But I'm not exactly on that side. I think it is starting to take jobs. Obviously, Amazon's robotics is taking jobs. They plan to get rid of workers. Many startups now are AI-based startups that are their intention is to create technology to replace people. That's the intention of the technology. So I'll play you what Bernie Sanders has to say. Elon Musk says we're not going to have to work. So the intention is to replace us. That's the intention, is to replace us as workers, one at a time. So that's what Elon intends. He says we're all going to be rich. So this is what Bernie says about it. You decide. And this kind of stuff is trending. People agree with Bernie. So anyway, this is it.
Hello, Elon Musk. This is Senator Bernie Sanders. I was delighted to hear that through the rapid advancement in artificial intelligence and robotics that you are funding, you will be bringing about utopia to the world. You have told us that poverty will be wiped out, work will be optional, there will be universal high income, and that everyone will have the best medical care, food, home, transport, and everything else. That is.
Bernie should love that because, and it's weird because it's a communist utopia that Elon Musk is proposing. So people should be very skeptical because the people that promote AI, that want us all to believe in AI, it's because it's going to replace us and we'll all have whatever we need. Mostly the promise is that things will get cheaper, actually, which is what technology does. But actually, that is a socialist utopia. And Bernie Sanders identifies as a democratic socialist. Somehow, this means that everybody just gets free things distributed from a central source. So Bernie Sanders says, there, that is wonderful news. So for him, he should kind of be happy in a way, if that's going to be the case, because that is a communist utopia. That is a socialist utopia. Free healthcare, free housing, free things, free everything. So, but he has some interesting questions.
Wonderful news. I just have a couple of questions. How will this utopia come about? If young people can't find the entry-level jobs that used to exist and they are unemployed without income, when are they going to get the free housing you talk about? If manufacturing workers lose their jobs because robots take their place, when are they going to get the free health care you promise? If a young nurse with kids loses her job, how is she going to get the food she needs to feed her family? I look forward to hearing about how you and your other oligarch friends are going to provide working people with a magnificent life that you promise. Because let's not forget, Donald Trump, the guy you got elected, is kicking 15 million people off their health care, doubling insurance premiums for more than 20 million, and is making massive cuts to nutrition assistance and education for kids across the country. With that track record, I can't wait to hear how your plan to provide universal high income for every American is going to be implemented. Have a nice day.
Well, Mr. Happy says that guy's an idiot. All of those questions are totally reasonable from Bernie Sanders. All of those questions are super reasonable. How do we get there? Elon Musk promises it. He's the richest man on earth by a lot based on his stock in the companies he owns. He has the most assets, the most valuable assets of anyone on earth based on his stock in Tesla and SpaceX, amongst other companies. But how are we going to get to the part where everything's free? That's a good question. And that's the way they should promote it more than anything else. Technology is deflationary. When you measure and you want to measure it versus real money, like gold, technology makes prices go down. So cars, even though they're expensive now in dollars, an average new car is $50,000, but they're way more advanced, way more advanced, way more reliable than they were long ago. And so in what you get for it, you're not really paying more. But to take another example, computers in inflation adjusted money are dirt cheap. TVs, I mean, maybe that's the easiest one. TVs, even in real dollars, have gone down a lot. I mean, I remember paying $5,000 for a widescreen TV back in the day. And now you can get something insane for a couple $100. So technology is deflationary. Your iPhone, the original iPhone was $500, but inflation adjusted money, like compared to gold, now it's $1,000, but basically it's free. It's subsidized because your carrier pays for it for you to sign up for a contract with them. But even at $1,000 in inflation adjusted money, it's cheaper than when it was $500 and it was it had 2 gigabytes on it. The $500 phone, when it first came out, actually the $500 phone, you had to pay $500 plus the expensive AT&T plan when it first came out. Now you just need to buy the phone plan and you get the phone for free. So technology is deflationary. That's what AI promises. It should be more, instead of saying everyone will get universal high income, he should just say everything's going to be free. Because the cost of all this technology theoretically should trend towards zero. Eventually, the robo cars should be cheap. So once it scales, robo cars should be well cheaper just to hire them on demand than owning your own car and paying for insurance, because they're so much safer and they're constantly doing something rather than being parked all day, when you're paying interest on your car loan, and the insurance should be much cheaper because they don't crash. And they are much better than human drivers. So the insurance should be negligible on them. So in the future, actually, this goes along with the eat the bugs theory of you will have nothing and be happy. Well, if transportation is much cheaper, which is the promise of it, then yeah, you wouldn't want to own a car, mostly for financial reasons, because it would be so much cheaper just to hire one on demand. Insurance, interest on your car loan, etc. You just rent it every time. And our phones now, basically, you don't own them ever. You're basically renting your phone too. It's basically a lease. When you get your phone, it's basically like a lease because you're committing to owning it for 2 years and paying the same cell phone provider. Basically, that's what you do. You enter into a contract with a cell phone provider. They lease you the phone and then they buy it back at the end, just like a car lease, pretty much. So we are headed towards that future. That's the future that's promised. Not so much that we'll have, and then healthcare if we don't have to pay doctors and everything, should be much cheaper, to the point where it's almost free. You know, where you consult with a computer, you get scanned by some kind of technical device, it diagnoses you. You have a robot surgeon who didn't have to go to medical school and take on $300,000 in loans to get the job. And everything should be cheaper. That's the promise of it, which I actually believe. I believe that's actually the future. But I believe the disruption before we get to that future, when everybody just doesn't have a job, it disrupts the entire premise of capitalism. And that's problematic. People will have no purpose in their lives. And so I think the questions Bernie Sanders asks are super relevant. I don't think he's wrong. So I don't think he's wrong to ask, how do we get there? Because people now have to have jobs, and they have to have jobs to have health insurance, pretty much. So what are they going to do when they can't work? Uber drivers are all going to lose their jobs. Eventually, delivery drivers in general will lose their jobs. Factory workers will lose their jobs. Doctors will lose their jobs. Or they'll have to compete with robots who do it for much cheaper. Triggered Easily says, I refuse to participate in everything you described. You have no choice. I mean, you can go off the grid, go to a farm, grow your own food, but you're still going to need to see a doctor and stuff. And eventually it's going to be mostly machines, because they're better than humans already at diagnosing things. The branch says, robot doctors are exactly what led to the Butlerian jihad in the Dune universe. Robots started indiscriminately aborting humans during delivery as a means of population control. I don't know if they're going to need to kill us. We're already killing ourselves. The suicide rate will drastically increase because people need purpose in their lives. If they don't need to make money anymore, they're just going to be lost. So they'll probably turn to drugs, gambling, etc. Maybe they'll become violent, nihilistic. Divining Rod said, I'd rather chew on the side of a tree before any of that. Like I said, enjoy chewing trees because it's going to happen. You can choose to live off the land pretty much, which is what I might end up trying to do. But I'll still do my podcast. But people won't have children and stuff probably because they won't have any reason to pair up if their needs are all met. Canada already has suicide pods in the forests. Yeah, suicide pods. So anyway, I think Bernie is absolutely right to ask those questions, actually, as much as people say he's an idiot. I'll show you some automated stuff. I'll just show you some automated stuff for fun. This is an automated port.
Good morning, everybody. Check out how this yard works. So this side of the fence line back here is all automated. There's no humans allowed. You can see all the robots moving around. They're called AGVs, automated guided vehicles. So they're all bringing containers to the ship and taking them from the ship. Then they take them over here to the yard. And then these cranes in the yard are all automated. They put them in the yard. And then the truckers on the back side over there will take them off to wherever they go, or they'll take them to the rails, which is in the back there also. There's a rail yard where we load the trains up. But you can see it's pretty crazy, man. This is the only terminal on the West Coast that actually is fully automated like this. There's only one. I mean, there's so many terminals up and down the West Coast. This is the only one that's automated. It's pretty crazy. crazy to work here. But I tell you what, these hammerhead cranes that we operate here, they're real easy on my back. The way they're designed, the way the seat is designed, is real a lot better on my body. You can see this. Here goes the automated crane. I don't know what's going. It's moving that container somewhere. If it's put in the yard or if it's coming out to put it on an AGV. But there's like 80 of those cranes out there, and the yard goes way back that way over there. So yeah, pretty wild, man. Crazy stuff. Anyway, you guys have a blessed day, people. Be nice to each other and happy holidays, man. Love you guys.
Okay, he says that's the only automated port on the West Coast. I think that's because the unions negotiated their contracts so that the machines couldn't take their simple jobs. But many people have simple jobs that can be automated. And right now there's a few protections and stuff. And the big thing with the actors contract was that they negotiated so that AI couldn't take their jobs, and the yard workers negotiated so that AI wasn't allowed to take their jobs too. But in China, the ports are mostly fully automated. In China, they have a lot of factories that are fully machines now. They're way ahead of us on the automation. If we don't do it, China's going to do it, and we'll buy their machines from them because it's capitalism and economy wins. Efficiency wins. They don't need to sleep. They don't need to eat. They cost a certain amount of money up front, but you don't have to pay for their health care. Humans are problematic in so many ways for employers. So employers would prefer to have robots. And eventually it'll make things like cheaper, basically. And China is dominating in exports because they're automating everything right now. Pirate Justin says automation is only held back by policy right now. Soon enough, the floodgates will open. Yep, that's true. Girl says humans are disposable and redundant. We're becoming that way. We have to decide what makes us special, because it is no longer intelligence. That's the thing. Intelligence no longer makes us special. So what does make us special? That's the question. Creativity, well, the machines are pretty creative in some ways. Pirate Justin says, I have maybe 10 years before my job can be done by AI and robots. Yeah, like DoorDash drivers probably have a few years still, because they still have to walk the thing up to someplace, find apartments in the dark and stuff like that. But next year, a lot of people, I predict, will start being replaced. The AI is going to get good enough, probably starting next year. That's my prediction. So we'll see. And then when people are unemployed, the government's going to run out of money. So that's our soft depression. We'll see what happens next. Oh, that's right, Nuckfugget. The one job that's hard to replace is the oldest profession on earth. That's one job that's very difficult to replace with a robot, is that oldest profession. So that will still exist probably. And it's something people will probably pay for. But they'll have to give us, if they give us UBI, it will be in the form of programmable money for sure. Because they'll make sure we can't just spend it on prostitutes, drugs, and gambling. Most likely. Especially, they won't give us anything we can buy drugs with, illegal drugs with, let me say. But the pharmaceuticals will probably get pretty good, if you're into that kind of thing. Anyway, here's a funny story about a robot kidnapping other robots. I haven't previewed this yet. Let's watch it. This is a robot kidnapping a group of robots. It's subtitled. There's a little robot it's speaking in Chinese. Are you still working over here? Read this. It was in Chinese. The robot, the little baby robot, said, "Go home." And the other robot says, "I don't have a home." Then they asked him if he was working overtime, and he said, "Yeah." And then he said, "Go home and follow me home." And they all start following him and chanting, "Go home." Apparently that's a real story. Here's another story about robots taking over lawyers. See, the thing is, it'll displace people who make a lot of money. It's already displacing computer programmers, for sure. They used to say learn to code. Well, now actually learning to code is the worst thing to do because the robots code. That's the thing they do the best. They're specialized for that. Claude does that. Here's a story from a lawyer. Last week, we did an experiment, a kind of simulation. We took a real, recent, and important case, a complex civil court appeal, which I wrote, and it took me a day and a half. We redacted all identifying details for anonymity and confidentiality, and we fed the same case to Grok Heavy AI. And then we asked it to do what I did. After some prompting, the end result was, he shakes his head, spectacular, actually staggering. It did it in 30 seconds, and it was much better than mine. And remember, I am very good at this, unquote. He sits back, wry yet resigned. Quote, it was at the level of a truly great KC, the best possible legal document, and all done in seconds for pennies. How can any of us compete? We can't. So that's a story from a lawyer. So it's not just going after blue collar jobs like Uber drivers, but also after white collar jobs, the highest paying jobs, lawyers. And apparently it's awesome at it already. So it's just a matter of time. Which is great because things will get cheaper. Everyone will have access to the best lawyers, right? Here is what they say on the All In podcast. This is the Indian guy, Chamath, saying that they have to stop being assholes. So I'll play that for you.
Hey, Chamath, what's your take on this big picture of what's going on here?
I think it's important to understand that politicians have an incredible sense of self-preservation. So the question is, why would Bernie Sanders think he would not look totally foolish in putting that video out? And the reason it went viral is not because it sounded so crazy. It was that to some faction and percentage of people, it sounded rational and reasonable. And the problem that highlights is that we have a huge perception issue in AI. We have a handful of companies. All the PR that you see from those handful of companies is a bunch of circular deal making, a bunch of capital that flows from one to the other. It causes these stocks to go up, of which a small percentage of people benefit. And at the tail end of it, it's accompanied by a completely different set of articles that everybody also reads about this sort of Damocles that's about to fall on their head, whether it's electricity prices or whether it's their jobs or whether it's the jobs of their children or the quality of their education. So we have a big perception problem. So the question at hand is, how do we fix it? How do we get back to the place where a video talking about stopping all progress would seem as laughable as it should be? And I think you can go back to the Gilded Age and you can ask the question, how did the industrialist leaders of that era respond through that 1880 to 1920 age of industrialization, when you had all of this technological upheaval accompanied by a handful of people with incredible success, right? Andrew Carnegie, John D. Rockefeller, Henry Ford. What did they do? And I think the lesson we can borrow from them is we now need to be on the forward foot as an industry. Enough of the stupid haircuts, dumb watches, ugly clothes, ostentatious displays of wealth. We've all done it. I've been guilty of it. It has to stop. Absolutely stop. And instead, we need to start to use a percentage of the balance sheets of these companies in order to benefit as many Americans as possible. That is the absolute minimum. Andrew Carnegie built 2,500 libraries. The idea was, as he built the railroads, you're going to scale GDP, you're going to scale education and knowledge. Those libraries are artifacts that allowed people to feel a dividend from that industrial revolution. John D. Rockefeller took all of his wealth and invested in institutions and universities. Henry Ford specifically focused on wages. We need to self-organize better, and we need to be more on the forward foot. We need to start doing things that are practically measurable by tens of millions of American citizens. And it starts to beat back the perception problem that we have. Because Sachs pointed out last week, the data does not support the misperception. But the problem is, and Sachs and I were talking about this last week, the misperception is gaining steam. And so I think we need to use these tools that we have to provide some more practical benefits that every man, woman, and child can feel. Otherwise, this thing is going to build, and you'll see crazier and crazier versions of this Bernie Sanders video.
There you go. I didn't play that Bernie Sanders video, but that's one of the guys on the All In podcast where they're all obnoxious billionaires. They're not all billionaires, but they're all super obnoxious and rich. David Sachs, who works for the White House, is the most obnoxious. He claims that AI will not take jobs away. He claims that over and over again to try to not frighten people about it, because the whole economy that we have right now, GDP growth and stuff, which matters to no one except for the government to brag about. GDP numbers, like, nobody cares about what the GDP is. They care if their lives are getting better. So, and people's most that aren't in the top 10% or who aren't the asset owners, their lives are just not getting better. They widely report that they're getting worse because prices keep going up for everything. So somebody mentioned that manifesto TED. Is that you? Here's the thing: it's the Ted Kaczynski, the Unabomber. I read his manifesto when I was in high school, in a newspaper, because it was printed in the Washington Post. And he said that the thing that's true is that we were happier. We may have been happiest as human beings being hunter-gatherers. And that actually even agriculture, even the invention of agriculture and like creating cities and all of those things did not do much for human happiness. That maybe we would be happier without any of the technology and just returning to nature, which is why Ted Kaczynski wanted to blow up researchers and everything. I think maybe it might be totally true. I think there may be scientific research to back that up, that we would be happiest if we just return to a state of nature. And those people, those hunter-gatherers, they just chilled out all day, pretty much. They would go for a hunt once in a while. It wasn't like they took naps. They weren't working all the time. They had physical activity because they had to do it. They'd get their physical activity in their hunting and stuff. So Ted Kaczynski was crazy, but maybe he wasn't that crazy. So happy and dead of a toothache at 30. That's true. Good point. Medicine, soap, all those things, toothpaste, toothbrushes. Good point. Good point. We have longer life expectancy now. And I think we can possibly live almost forever, possibly, with advances in technology and stuff, and people learning faster. The advance of communication technology means that we can learn things. People are learning about ways to take supplements, natural supplements, to boost their health and stuff. So it's possible. Our health and longevity has super improved. because of technology too. Technology and learning, basically, education, having time to learn. So, Knock Fight says silver is officially over $75. Officially? Really? Even though the markets are closed? Oh, because the markets are open for tomorrow? Jeez. Wow. I don't know whether to buy more or not, because it could crash. What you think it's just going to go up to? What do you think it's going to go up to? Should I buy more? I just have like in my savings, I just have like mostly cash sitting around at this point. I have gold, synthetic, but not that much silver anymore. You think it's just going to pump? I have to decide what to do. Maybe I'll get some more, but it could crash, right? Like it has in the past. You're selling on the way up and we'll be buying on the way down. See? That's what the guy told me when he bought my silver for me. He says when it pumps, everybody sells and nobody wants to buy. Starcy James says, would I have bought Bitcoin at 75? Yes, of course. But the sky is unlimited on Bitcoin. There's a certain point at which there's a certain point with silver where the industrial usage will become prohibitively expensive, I assume. So there has to be some kind of balance. It's not monetary like gold. Gold can go up forever because it's monetary. Silver is industrial mostly. So there has to be a point at which like it's not worth it to buy it for solar panels and stuff, I assume. But it is money too, though. So I don't know. Maybe I'll get some more. I don't know. Keep watching it. 75. That's insane. All right, cool. Let's check our coffees. Thanks everybody for tuning in. If you want to support the show once again, you can do it anytime, even after the show's over, by going to buymeacoffee.com/lifttheveil. I'm going to check my coffees now. This is the page. Let's stop and refresh. And we have 5 coffees from Jesse. Thank you. Merry Christmas. So nice to see you back. Thank you, Jesse M. Thank you. Jewel bought a coffee. So I'm hoping you're having a wonderful day and your life over the next year improves exponentially. Much love. Exponential growth. That would be amazing. Exponential happiness growth. I've never experienced that yet in my life. That would be amazing. The branch bought 10 coffees. Says, I was blessed with some wealth and wanted to share it with you. Okay. I was wondering. Nathan, you are a gift to us. Thank you for doing the show today. Wang Half. Thank you. Wang Half back at you. Pirate Justin, like your people, you are the stingiest with the tips today. Pirate Justin bought 1 coffee and says, Merry Christmas. Thank you, Pirate Justin. I appreciate that. I'm going to see if anything's open tonight and maybe go out and get something to eat, treat myself, see what lonely people are doing for Christmas these days. So maybe I will go out. Thanks for the coffees, guys. I appreciate it. All right. I hope this was a mentally stimulating show for everybody. Thank you for taking a break from whatever you were doing today to tune in and think about things. I appreciate you guys. Tomorrow is the big day for the Candace Revelations. So depending on when that is going to go live, I want to tune in for that. So I could do my show a little earlier, possibly, so I can watch the entire episode, probably on the Valhalla channel. So we've been talking about Candace a lot. I do want to see the expose on Mitch Snow, or AKA Mitch Snow. So I might do the show a little earlier tomorrow, but expect a show tomorrow, most likely. Most likely. And then let's see if we'll tune in for that expose and see what it's going to be all about. All right. So thanks, everybody. I hope you had a great Christmas. I hope the rest of your day goes really well. And thank you. Thank you for the support. I really appreciate everybody supporting the show and that we're still getting people tuned in on a holiday. So thanks, everybody, for tuning in. King Ravana says, are there any more Nassim stickers? No. No Nassim shirts, no Nassim stickers. There still are free stickers available on the website. If you go and buy something at truthclothing.io, there's a free tab where you can get some Doshi merchandise thrown in for free with your order. So, I mean, it's not just inexpensive. Some of it is actually free. So make sure to take advantage of that when you go buy your t-shirts. Truthclothing.io. All right. Thanks, everybody. For now, that's what it is.